Hello, and a very good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. First and foremost, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you to my YouTube channel. My name is Kolias Chiruka. I'm a certified Azure administrator. I'm also a certified DevOps engineer, and I've been working in the Azure cloud environments, AWS environments, as well as on-premises data centers for quite some time now. This is the first video of a series of videos that we're going to be looking at. The main goal of this particular video is we want to focus on the we would like to focus on the exam AZ-800, which is administering Windows Server hybrid core infrastructure. So what we would like to do is we want to look at the objectives of this particular exam and why Microsoft has really introduced this particular exam, and what purpose does it serve? As you would know that most of Microsoft's certifications are role-based or are tailor-made for specific and particular roles. So the exam code is AZ-800, and the title of the certification is Administering Windows Server Hybrid Core Infrastructure. Before we actually delve more into what this course is all about, let me just give you a brief introduction and the reason why Microsoft is offering this particular course. So as you know that right about from 2010 up until now, a lot of companies have been migrating their workloads onto the cloud, whether it is Azure, whether it is AWS, or any other cloud platform. There are quite a number of them: Oracle, Huawei now, Alibaba Cloud. So a lot of companies, for various reasons, have been migrating their workloads onto the cloud. But however, one of the things that a lot of organizations didn't anticipate in this entire cloud migration process is the cost, the actual cost, specifically computing costs, storage costs. They've been quite high. They've been quite a lot of costs that a lot of companies have not been able, have been unable to anticipate. And as some of their workloads start growing, then that has really caused a lot of organizations to start struggling. Some of them have actually gone over budget in terms of their cloud costs. And a lot of companies, big and small, in their teams, there's something that is called cloud cost optimization. This is basically a process where organizations are trying to optimize their costs, their cloud costs. But the idea behind this particular course is that some companies have invested hugely in on-premises infrastructure or on-premises data centers. And for organizations like that, it helps them leverage on cloud costs. And what this basically means is you are only going to move workloads onto the cloud which are not cost intensive, and then you can run some workloads on your on-premises infrastructure. So this particular role, if you complete this particular course, you're going to be working as a Windows Server hybrid administrator. So in other words, you are an individual, a professional who is actually able to manage workloads on premises and in Azure, and how these can actually communicate. So this is what we actually want to look at. So you'll be integrating Windows Server environments with Azure services, that is your on-premises server environments with Azure services. You also be managing Windows Server in on-premises networks. This is the objectives of this particular course that Microsoft is offering. There are actually two exams, AZ-800 and AZ-801. So this particular course is focusing on AZ-800. So as an introduction to this particular course, we just want to look at what sort of things should you focus on? What sort of areas should you be able to focus on? But just to drill down, you also need to consider the fact that in this particular role, for example, you will be working with Azure administrators. You typically collaborate with Azure administrators, your enterprise architects, your Microsoft 365 administrators, network engineers. This basically depends on how big your organization is and what sort of professionals are within your organization or within your environment. So, in a nutshell, this is basically the introduction in terms of what the exam is all about, or the course is all about. So I'm just going to then move and focus on um, some of the skills that are measured. What are the skills that you're going to be focusing on, or that you are required to focus on? So the very first skill that we are going to look at is deploying and managing identity infrastructure. So what exactly do we mean by um, deploying identity infrastructure? So we are basically talking about um, Active Directory domain services is one of the things that you need to be focusing on. So as you know that Active Directory is your central database for the Windows Server environment, and this is where your user accounts, your computer accounts are centrally stored. So as we will delve deeper, we are also going to look at some of the subtopics under deploying and managing identity infrastructure. These are some of the things that you actually be expected to know for you to be able to fully execute your role. So we're going to be looking at Active Directory domain services, where we're going to look at domain controllers. We're going to look at global catalog, operational masters, and all that. And then another area under deploying and managing identity infrastructure is what we call group policy objects. So we're going to be looking in terms of how you're going to implement group policy objects, and what are group policy objects and how you're going to implement them within your organization. We are also going to look at how to manage advanced features of Active Directory domain services. And I guess one of the most important things is then how do you implement hybrid identity with Windows Server. So we're also going to look at that. And we are also going to look at how can you deploy and manage your Azure infrastructure as a service, Active Directory domain controllers in Azure. Remember, this is a hybrid. This is a hybrid course. So by hybrid, we are basically saying that how do you manage on-premises Windows services and Windows environments or Windows servers uh, and Azure, and how the two can communicate. So this is going to be our one of our focus areas. Um, Besides deployment and managing identity infrastructure, one of the things that we're also going to be looking at is how to manage Windows Server and the workloads in a hybrid environment. So under this, we are basically going to look at how do you secure Windows Server? How do you perform Windows Server secure administration? So security is such an important thing under management. So we're going to look at how you're going to look at the concept of the least privilege. For example, when you give someone access, um, what level of access should you give, whether it's access to resources, access to certain environments, or access to certain resources. So we're going to look at the issue of how can you define least privilege administration. What sort of privileges are you going to give to the CEO? What sort of privileges are you going to give to an end user, or it's maybe it's someone who is working in the marketing department, someone who is working in sales, someone who is in a call center, someone who is working in finance department. So when we look at managing Windows Server servers and workloads in a hybrid environment, security is one of the most important things, because you don't want to give users more privilege than they actually deserve. We're also going to look at what we call delegated privileges. It's also one of the most important concepts that we're going to look at. We're also going to look at the concept of jump servers. What are jump servers, and why would you want to implement jump servers in your environment? So, in terms of managing Windows servers and workloads in a hybrid environment, these are some of the things that we're going to be looking at. We are also going to look at your Windows Server administration tools. So, in terms of Windows Server administration tools, um, we are going to look at what sort of tools are you going to use to manage your servers. So, for example, we have got the Windows Admin Center. What are its features? We're going to look at that. What are the features of Windows Admin Center? What is the Windows Server Manager? And how do you use it to manage your servers? And also, one of the things that you also need to consider is as you work for big organizations, you are also going to manage remote servers. So let's say, for example, your organization has got branches or different branches in different towns or locations. Some of the branches might be in remote locations. So we're going to look at remote server administration tools. What sort of tools are you going to use to manage your servers um, remotely? We're also going to look at tools such as PowerShell, which is a very, very powerful scripting tool. In terms of automation, we are also going to look at that as well. Then we are also going to look at what we call post-installation configuration of Windows Server. Once you've installed Windows servers, what sort of configurations are you going to use? And some of the configuration tools, we're also going to look at them as well. And we're also going to look at how you manage hybrid workloads using what is called Azure Arc. So we will explain what Azure Arc is, and what it's all about. We're going to look at that in detail. And we're also going to look at how you optimize your IT operations as well as management with Azure Auto Manage. It's one of the tools that are going to be used, Azure Auto Manage. Then we have a concept called the just enough administration in Windows Server. So we're also going to focus on that and see how that is going to assist you. Right. Then the other concept that is quite important in this particular role as a hybrid administrator is how to manage virtualization in containers in a hybrid environment. We are going to introduce the concept of containers. What are containers? We're going to introduce the concept of virtualization. How do you run virtual machines? And we are also going to learn more about Hyper-V, which is um, Windows inbuilt virtualization software. How do you configure Hyper-V? How do you configure Hyper-V networking and access the advanced Hyper-V networking features? How do you implement what we call nested virtualization? All these are issues that we're going to be discussing. We're also going to delve deep into virtual machines, and we're also going to do practicals of how do you create virtual machines, how do you configure them, how do you share virtual hard disks, and how do you implement guest clusters using shared VHDX. And we are also going to look at security as well in Hyper-V workloads. How do you secure how do you secure Hyper-V? So security is also very important in virtualization. It's quite important. And we're going to look at what we call guarded fabric. We're going to look at shielded VMs. Yes, so in terms of security, these are some of the things that we're going to look at. And we're also going to look at the planning and deployment of Windows virtual machines, right? Not only on premises, but also on Azure, because the whole concept of Azure, when it comes to compute, Azure gives you a platform for you to be able to create your own virtual machines, and they are prepared for you depending on the workloads that you're going to run. So we're also going to look at virtual machine types. How do you deploy virtual machines on Azure? Using, for example, the portal, using Azure CLI or automation tools that Azure provides, as well as some of the third-party tools that might be available. For example, Terraform is one of the most important third-party tools. It's cloud agnostic. It is widely used across different cloud environments to automate provision of virtual machines, as well as other resources as well. And we are also going to look at how to customize, Windows Server virtual machine images, implementing Azure Image Builder, creating a Windows virtual machine with Azure Image Builder using PowerShell and various templates that might actually be available. So I think as a key takeaway here, automation is very important. It's one of the most important things that we're going to learn here, and how to run containers. So we're going to look at what containers are and how do you run containers inside the Windows environment. Quite an interesting topic. I'm really looking forward to it. And then we're also going to look at container orchestration using a tool called Kubernetes. So we're also going to look at how you can orchestrate containers using Kubernetes. So that's all about managing virtualization in containers in a hybrid environment. The next topic, so this will be, as we have looked, the first topic that we've looked at that is going to be important here, and I'll put it as number one, topic one. Um, it's deployment of and management of identity infrastructure. Then the second topic, major topic here, is managing Windows servers and workloads in a hybrid environment. Then what I can list as topic number three is how to manage virtualization containers um, in a hybrid environment. Then number four will obviously be what we call implementation and operation of an on-premises hybrid networking. So networking is essential, is quite important. So that will be my fourth. That will actually be my fourth topic. We'll just put it as a heading so that, right. So, what are we going to be looking at in terms of implementing and operating an on-premises hybrid networking infrastructure? As you know, that yes, we can talk about workloads, we can talk about resources, but all these things, whether it's storage, computing, net, it has to come together um, and be able to connect. So we're going to look at DNS services in Azure, right? We're going to um, understand what DNS, how does Azure implement DNS? We are also going to then dig deep into DNS in terms of how do you then create your DNS zones within Azure. We are also going to look at things such as implementation of split horizons, for example, um, split horizons in Azure. Um, split horizon. We're also going to look at how to implement DNS with virtual machines. We are also going to look at the deployment and use of DHCP. As you know, that so basically we'll dig deep into each and every topic. So this is just an introduction or just an overview of what we're going to be looking at. So we're also going to look at dynamic host configuration protocol. As you'd know, that DHCP is a protocol that is used to automatically assign IP addresses to your virtual machines in your network or even physical machines. So we are going under DHCP. We're going to look at how do you install DHCP, how do you configure DHCP options, how do you implement things such as DHCP failover, for example, and how do you implement high availability, for example, within DHCP. So these are some of the things that you're going to be looking at. And in terms of DNS, we are going to look at the DNS architecture um, and also implementing DNS forwarding. And we are also going to look at IP address management. How do you then manage your IP addresses within your environment or within your network? We're also going to look at remote access. We're also going to look at how to implement hybrid network environment. So, in terms of this um, topic, implement and operate in on-premises and hybrid networking infrastructure. These are some of the things that we need to look at. And lastly, under this particular course, the fifth major topic that we're going to look at, and I'll list it as number 5, is obviously going to be how to configure storage and file services. As you know, that storage is such an essential component, because at the end of the day we deal with data or data, and we deal with lots and lots of data, some of which needs to be shared amongst different teams, amongst different departments. So it is quite important for us in this hybrid role to then look at how do you manage file servers, for example. How do you create file shares? How do you configure the SMB protocol, which is the protocol that allows us to implement file shares? We are going to be looking at that. We are going to look at what code storage spaces. We're going to look at data deduplication. In many organizations, a lot of data um, is duplicated, and that then eats into some of our storage. It gets into some of our storage, and storage is costly. So we need to have a mechanism to deduplicate data. And fortunately, within the Windows hybrid environment, there are features to perform Windows Server data duplication. We're also going to look at how you can implement iSCSI storage. We are also going to look at how to implement storage replicas and implement a hybrid file server infrastructure. So basically, these are the 5 major topics that we find. These are the 5 major topics that we find within this particular course that we are looking at, which is the AZ-800, Administering Windows Server Hybrid Core Infrastructure. If you go through these 5 topics thoroughly, I will just give you a rundown of the topics once again and once more. And if you manage to go through those topics as we are going to be looking at them, then you'll be able to pass this particular exam, and you also would have gained very great skills. Um, Great and wonderful skills um, in order to implement the Windows Server hybrid core infrastructure that comprises of your on-premises data centers as well as your Azure environment. And this then helps you to manage costs within your organizations by making sure that you um, run cost-intensive applications locally on your on-premises data center, and you only migrate to Azure only those workloads that will not cost your organization. A lot of organizations are actually have exhausted their cloud budget, so through various cloud optimization strategies, a lot of companies are then trying ways in which to decommission certain resources and services from Azure back to on-premises infrastructure. So this is a very important role in any organization, any company, because a lot of companies are going back to on-premises infrastructure, but they are not completely offloading Azure as a platform. They are finding ways in which you can actually uh, bring the two together to work for the best of the company. And so our next topic in the next video in this series will be deployment and management of identity infrastructure. So that will be our next video. My name is Colliers Chiruka. As I have told you that I'm a qualified Azure administrator. I'm also a qualified DevOps engineer. I would like to thank you for watching my videos, and I will see you in the next video where we're going to look at how to deploy and manage identity infrastructure. Another thing that I also would like to also emphasize is the issue of practical labs. We're also going to be doing labs. So labs are, because we cannot just learn theory without doing things practically. So we are going to, for example, learn how to install Windows Server. Um, yes, Windows Server operating system. We're going to look at Hyper-V, install operating systems, install virtual machines, and how to configure things such as Active Directory, domain services, how to manage group policy objects, DNS, DHCP, and so on and so on. So for now, thank you so much. I would like to thank you so much for watching these videos. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.